Shitposts and shootings. Everybody is adding their comments on the shootings that happened over the weekend. This past Saturday, a guy who looks like Kevin Fragmaster Bowen, circa 2001, walked into a Walmart and gunned down 20 people. There was another shooting in Dayton, Ohio, but by the time news was coming out about that one, I'd already shut down, and I'll tell you why. I said everybody is adding their comment, and they are. Beto O'Rourke has been capturing airtime because he's from El Paso, which he called the strongest place in the world in his initial remarks, and I'll take his word for it. Trump has weighed in, promising some nebulous action on guns. Bernie Sanders sent a circular to his supporters via email advocating a more technical version of the same policy proposal. I shut down this weekend when I went on Twitter and watched O.J. Simpson's official remarks about the killings. O.J. Simpson is one of those Americans who means a lot of things to a lot of people. But on Twitter, he's King fucking Boomer. His video is about 30 seconds long, and he starts it off by saying he's always been interested in history, which means he watches the History Channel. Recently, yours truly, because that's how O.J. introduces himself in the videos he posts to Twitter, saw a documentary about a real bad guy. A guy named Hitler. According to the Juice, Germany's economy was doing great in the 30s. They were producing tons of Volkswagen Beetles, building the Autobahn, doing all kinds of good stuff. But there was a problem. Hate. This Hitler guy, apparently, was full of hate. Now, I don't know, says OJ. But it seems to me that here in America today, we've got a good economy and a lot of hate, just like Germany. The Juice disapproves. I watched this video, and afterwards I did not scroll, but instead kept my eye on the number of likes attached to the post. They increased logarithmically as the people of Twitter registered their agreement with O.J. Simpson's moral judgment. We live in a country where the opinions of murderers are taken seriously. The contemptible man who shot up that Walmart in El Paso posted a manifesto to 8chan before he did it. When I first saw news reports about the incident, I immediately popped over to 8chan and read it. Many of you have done the same, and I've found it floating around on some secondary platform. It's been 2 days since the shooting, and I've seen this moronic and pathetic document screenshotted, excerpted, reposted again and again on Twitter, on Reddit, elsewhere. Gawker's desiccated husk, now called Splinter, published a story yesterday asking users to guess whether they were reading excerpts of the manifesto or something said on Fox News. The manifesto itself is some dumbass shit. It's 4 pages long, name checks the Call of Duty franchise in a section making a highly specious, deeply stupid, and completely evil argument about the morality of killing unarmed civilians. It's like the Down syndrome cousin of The Great Replacement, the more lengthy and polished but equally repugnant document posted by the Christchurch shooter Brendan Tarrant before he shot up a mosque in New Zealand. Both killers justify their acts through a combination of nativist race hatred and an existential fear about oncoming environmental collapse. The El Paso shooter cites the Lorax in this section of his screed. Literally a children's book. That's his citation. That's the evidence he uses to convince you that what he's saying is true. This manifesto sucks. Reading it is a waste of time. So why are we spreading this horrible, poorly constructed, apocalyptic suicide note so widely? Because grisly crime and indiscriminate murder have become one of the primary drivers of our mass media. It is key to the authority claimed by our politicians, who have since George W. Bush advanced many pieces of legislation in the name of keeping the population safe from terrorist incident. Some of these initiatives have entered the popular lexicon. They've gotten nicknames. The Patriot Act, the Muslim ban, the drone program, and my favorite, the color-coded terror alert system, which Fox News and CNN displayed in the marginalia of their broadcasts throughout the 2000s, literally treating the chance of being killed by some radical incendiary device like the chance of rain reported by a television meteorologist. Fear is profit. Paranoia in America today is a big fucking business. Today, and for the foreseeable future, we will fear the young white man who posts anonymously online, because that's who this fucking idiot was. I'm a young white man. I posted anonymously and pseudonymously on internet message boards for more than 20 years. I've seen the tenor of discourse on 8chan and 4chan degrade in its political dimension to the point where some sections of /poll are just fucking ISIS now. Places where isolated, hopeless, and deeply angry young men and women, if you don't believe it, I've met more than a few, generate, consume, and retransmit deeply nihilistic memes like dehumanize yourself and face to bloodshed, or the particularly vile imagery depicting Brendan Tarrant, the Christchurch shooter, as a saint. There's a image of this painted on a wall in Australia by the graffiti artist Lush Sucks, and I think it's a Photoshop. I don't think Lush Sucks actually did that, but if he did, fuck him. That's a fucking poison idea. 8chan is down right now, but one of the last things I saw posted in poll was a thread starting with an image of the El Paso shooter and with the OP, or original post, of honor our martyrs, honor our heroes. I think that this is actually the worst thing I have ever seen on the internet. The best response to the shooting that I've seen so far came from 8chan too. It was posted by the moderator of their television board, and I'm not going to link it because I don't want to make trouble for him. But in this post, the mod says that Cloudflare is withdrawing DDoS protection from 8chan, ensuring that the board will be down for a few days as it is overloaded with DDoS attacks, denial of service attacks. 8chan will be back, however. They can't kick us off the fucking internet, said the mod. You should be able to shitpost about whatever the fuck you want. Then he addresses the shootings. Cut it out, he said. Then he called the shooter, who goes unnamed throughout this posting, and anyone who considers following in his footsteps, pussies. I post anonymously because we live in a society defined by its unprecedented ability to produce, disseminate, and digest information. My existence as information, as a description of a man, is in some ways more real than the struggling and occasional operations of my blood and my flesh. As long as the internet is making money for the multinational corporations who control and depend on its communications infrastructure, there will be people finding ways to post without identity or with disguised identity. It's here to stay. Shit posting, literally posting shit just for the pleasure of it, is an activity that depends on anonymity or pseudonymity. Oscar Wilde said, give a man a mask and he'll tell you the truth. Give everyone a mask and they'll tell you their truth. How the world looks from their perspective, regardless of how that reality fits into the cosmographic model perpetuated by corporate oligarchs responsible for governing the faiths of our acceptable discourses. On anonymous boards, you will encounter so much truth, so many things that people either believe themselves or want you to believe very badly, that it quickly becomes apparent that the people around us are operating in vastly different realities. Every reality comes complete with links and cross-references and classical citations. Whole bodies of literature exist to advance the ideas that the earth is flat, that the protocols of the elders of Zion are a legitimate document, that the Holocaust is a lie, that the United States government planned and executed the destruction of the World Trade Center. You can dive down these rabbit holes and rabbit holes like them, and you will find bits of data that are verifiable, interwoven with fabrications, distortions, and extrapolations of highly schizophrenic character. 8chan is one of the only places on the internet over the last decade where I saw continual information posted about Jeffrey Epstein and the underage sex trafficking ring he operated on behalf of our planet's ruling class, a matter which is now in the public record, landing Epstein in jail. When document dumps of the Hillary campaign and the DNC occurred, they were both posted on 8chan. These anonymous boards lie to you constantly. But as near as I can tell, they lie about as much as more traditional mass media, just in a different way. Rather than checking all data against the desires and expectations of corporate underwriters, as is done on television and the newspapers, the anonymous internet is just a shit show free-for-all where anything goes, everything's true, and there's no direct personal consequences for posting anything. That's why it's shit posting. And that's what makes it important. All information is interested in replicating itself. A news story, more than it exists to inform, exists to be shared, to inspire the necessary eyeballs to draw blood from the advertising stone. This was even true in a different way when mass media news was still printed in paper. Other papers picking up a story meant increased profile and prominence for journalists, and increased the likelihood of the story communicating itself to other mediums like television, film. A story with a national profile might end up sparking a book deal for the author. Something like Watergate might get you played by Robert Redford in the film adaptation. These are highly communicable ideas. In the 20th century, mass media was solely under the control of a small group of people, editors, publishers, producers, and executives, selected down the information presented to them to create a series of digestible and hopefully compelling narratives which would drive the reading and viewing upon which their advertisers depend. By the 1990s, this operation was capable of creating Greek tragedies, massive public spectacles with seemingly endless meaning and a bottomless number of twists and turns. Look at what happened to OJ. He killed 2 people, and then millions watched for years, entranced, as the former rental car pitchman became a kind of martyr, representative of America's grisly and irresolvable history of racial injustice, police brutality, celebrity largesse, domestic violence, more and more every day, until by the end, Orenthal James Simpson was no longer a man, but a highly polysemous symbol, encompassing the triumph and the tragedy of his country. They made an Oedipus and they sold it on the backs of 2 murdered people, and it made money for everybody. Internet shitposting does not have any filters. All you need is a pulse to post. Like other bits of mass media, the goal of a shitpost is to create something that will spread, an idea, an image that people will like and retransmit. Anonymous posters who have been posting anonymously for years have learned many of the lessons so long ago internalized by the quote-unquote mainstream media. If you want people to get excited and spread your message, make them afraid. Tell them that the world is flying apart and that they are in danger. Mix in racial hatred to generate the necessary cross-pressure of warring demographics. OJ was a media narrative OJ as a media narrative plied black consumers with its themes of police overreach and brutality, turning OJ's exoneration into a symbolic victory over a corrupt and racist law enforcement system, which was not actually threatened in any meaningful way by the decision handed down in the trial. White consumers were stimulated with constant repetition of the lurid details of a white woman killed by a black man. The tension between these 2 groups vastly increased the reach of the story and played to the underlying fears of both populations. And of course, if you want something to really spread, there needs to be some blood. If fame and infamy are the same to you, and your objective is to create information that will spread and metastasize as widely as humanly possible, this is what you do. The El Paso shooter justifies himself by saying that governments commit mass murder all the time to advance their political interests. So why shouldn't he? This guy's fucking horrible, stupid, pathetic suicide note is now being read and retransmitted by millions of people. He has a little Reddit-style explainer paragraph in there talking about his equipment loadout, basically a step-by-step guide on how to replicate his act of murder and presumably how to spread your retarded 3rd-grade level understanding of the world to a mass audience. I was raised for a world that no longer exists, he says in so many words. No shit! The baby boomer generation of white Americans experienced the highest level of technologically aided comfort enjoyed by any group anywhere in the history of the human species. They had it because the rest of the world blew itself up in the Second World War, but they don't think of it that way. American Protestantism, as Max Weber understands, has given its descendants a sense that they are only justified spiritually, morally, in terms of their existence, existentially, by their labor. Their labor is the reason they deserve what they have. So these white Protestants and crypto Protestants and descendants of Protestants feel that they have accomplished the impossible, that they've created a paradise of malls and televisions and yummy treats. and their children, beneficiaries and heirs of this supposed achievement, are in debt, alone, hooked on Oxycontin, underemployed, unemployed, insufficient, in other words, unworthy of their inherited success. I'm starting to see memes where people post fast food restaurants from the 90s, white interiors with purple accents and those angular abstract designs you used to see, alongside captions like, "Remember what they took from you." What they took from you was cheap, tawdry, corporatist post-humanity. The ridiculous lifestyle of the baby boomers was a crime with its roots in a genocidal war, and its veneer of comfort was just the M&M candy shell disguising a wholly vacuous society built entirely on amoral manipulation of the masses to maximize their consumptive spending and thus the profit and power of the corporate infrastructure supported by the American alliance of military and industry, which gained practical control over the world over the course of the latter half of the 20th century. Whiteness is a product, and the idea of Caucasian supremacy was ruthlessly sold and catered to by the corporate infrastructure until it became necessary to move attention to other demographics who, being historically disenfranchised legally and economically, would not demand treatment on par with those enjoyed by the post-war whites in terms of quality of life, economic security, and so on. Millennial white men, and I'm one, were raised after the Soviet Union fell, and we were promised by our parents' generation and their false sense of accomplishment that we would accomplish miraculous lives that would win us abundance and princely comfort that would last forever. I understand being angry that that promise was not fulfilled, but the promise was always bullshit because the organizations making it and feeding it to our parents have no 5-year plans or 10-year plans or 25-year plans. They just want to make more money this year than last year. And they'll say whatever shit they need to say to make that happen. What is profitable or popular is very rarely what is good. This system, on a certain level, does not care what color you are. If you're not economically valuable to it, you're fucking slime and you will be ejected. I've been shitposting on the internet since I was in 7th grade, and if I had to summarize the content of those millions of posts, it would be in this expression of theme. The world is a fucking nightmare of clownish corporate mismanagement where ignorance and paranoia are deliberately engineered and manipulated to sell sugar water and beef and munitions. Or, if you want to encompass that idea more succinctly, LOL. Terrorism is not an act against the system. Terrorism is a necessary part of modern global American empire, justifying a state of constant war waged against everyone, everywhere, even within the borders of the United States itself. White shitposters are the boogeyman now. It'll move a lot of product. But as long as people want to break copyright laws, make dark jokes, and distribute illegal information, there will be shitposting. Already, whole generations have grown up on the internet, trained nearly from birth in the art of producing replicable and successful mass media information. The ARPANET computers that form the earliest skeleton of the present internet were conceived to aid in the quick transmission of data between atom bomb launch sites. When Eisenhower talked about the spiritual life of Americans being deeply affected by the military-industrial complex, this is what he meant. I am speaking to you through technology that is the grandson of the atom bomb. To my fellow shitposters, I say this. We are, by accident or circumstance, residents of the future. Not far in the future, but a few years ahead of where a lot of people are. We must be morally worthy of this technology. We've seen again and again what it can do. Let's start thinking about what it should do. Then, we post it